In this week's episode, we sat down with Kim Hummel, the owner of Hummel Consulting, and she's an absolute marketing guru. She's going to take us on her journey, share her story, her experiences, all of the ups and downs of owning her own business and never giving up on herself. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Tell Us Your Story.
Welcome to Tell Us Your Story. Join us as we step into the arena with business owners, leaders, and influencers. Hear their stories as they navigate challenges, opportunities, and victories on their journey to success. As Theodore Roosevelt once said, it is not the critic who counts, but the man or woman who is actually in the arena.
I grew up in several different places. I've never left California, so I've always been a California girl, but I was born in San Diego, and my dad was in the Navy, and my mother was chasing Navy men, so that's how she met him. And so I was born down there. Most of my family on my mom's side lived down there, and then we moved to San Jose when I was about, 4 or 5 years old, and then we moved to Santa Rosa. At that point, my father was no longer in the picture. So it was my mom and the 3 kids I have. I actually have one sister, one brother, and one half brother. So I don't know. I guess there's 3 of them. And
what's the order? Are you oldest, middle, youngest?
I'm the oldest, but I look the youngest.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a great answer.
I love it.
Yeah. So, and I probably act the youngest too. So, and then we really grew up in Santa Rosa, Sonoma County area. So I, was in there from 6th grade through high school and did some college there and then moved away. But we had a really good childhood. There was lots of camping going on. I'm a real adventurer type of person. So we're always camping in the outdoors and hiking and backpacking. And my mom really got us into that, and she got us into football. So we learned football at a really young age. So we're really kind of all football hounds.
Well, I'm always interested, what kind of student were you? Were you studious? Were you focused on school?
No, I was never focused on school. I cut school a lot. I almost didn't graduate because of that, but I had really high grades. So my GPA was really high. It was like 3.8. I'm lucky, very fortunate that I didn't have to do a lot of studying to take a test. So I would just kind of cliff note it and, always got good grades.
Very lucky.
Very lucky. Yes, I was very, very lucky. So, so I cut school a lot, wasn't that great of a kid. I was around all different types of people in school. I didn't have a certain clique I hung around. We hung out with the jocks and the smokers and the brainiacs and the wrestlers. I was one of those type of people that just hung out with everybody, but didn't really like the school.
Yeah, interesting. 3.8 to me in high school was you were a brainiac.
Yeah, I did really well.
I was like, there's no way I could get there. So what was the plan in high school? What was your dream? Did you have one?
I knew that I wanted to work in criminal law and wanted to work with kids, from a very young age. I love kids and, I want to help all the time. So I thought that was kind of a career path that I would go down. I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I moved out of the house at 17 before I graduated and graduated and then went to Santa Rosa Junior College and pursued criminal law. And I ended up going to the California Youth Authority and doing a field trip, if you were. I was doing really good in the classes, but the field trip just totally turned me around. I said, I can't do this. There was 2 8-year-old twins, I'll never forget, 8 years old, and they killed their parents.
Oh,
and,
wow.
It's you have to, that's an extreme, but there's, lots of really bad kids that could be turned around. But still, I thought, they're very violent. And, it was just, I couldn't sleep at night knowing that people are struggling so much. So what am I going to do with that? And so I decided that I would drop down to a minor in criminal law and pursue psychology. So I have my bachelor's degree in psychology. So I went to Santa Rosa Junior High, got my associate's degree, went to Sonoma State, and then finished my bachelor's degree online with Ashford University when my daughter was older. So I didn't complete it all in one time.
Interesting. So you left home at 17 and you were out on your own?
Yes.
And you decided to go to school. So it sounds like, dive into it. So you left, almost sounds like rebellious, but you still went to school?
Right.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Can you dive into it a little?
Sure. So I graduated high school, of course. I almost didn't because my psychology professor, because I missed too many days. He goes, your grades are there, but you missed too many days. If you come in for every weekend for a month and help me grade papers, then I'll pass you. So that's the only way I passed high school. But anyway, so then I decided, I needed to be out on my own. I was basically paying my mother rent and food and all of that. And I'm like, if I'm going to do that, I can do it on my own. So moved out of the house, had a roommate. I decided that I wanted to pursue my degree in criminal law. And I didn't want to be working at, back then it was Long's Drugstore, forever. So I'd worked there for a while and moved up into the management position there, but I didn't want to do retail and all that. So I just kind of had an epiphany one day. It's like, I need to get in school and I need to figure out my path and where I'm going. And I still didn't really know. I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew that. So it's like, in what capacity? I wasn't sure. So, yeah.
And you were driven. So was school just boring to you? Did it just not stimulate you?
No, it didn't stimulate me at all, actually. So I was one of those kids that didn't pay attention too much in class. And, I had ADD. So it was hard for me to pay attention and focus and all of that. But you put me in front of something, like I was in auto body shop. I was the only girl in auto body shop 4 years in high school. And I did really, really well at that. And because I was doing hands-on stuff, and I was one of the top students in my class for that too. And it was just very interesting to me how I learn. And I learned through, auditory. I read a lot, I've always read a lot, but if it was academic stuff, I didn't want to read it,
Yeah.
Unless it was interesting.
Yeah.
Now the psychology books were really interesting to me, and I saved them for years and read them throughout my career. But just regular high school stuff, man.
It was college. Was it the same in college? It sounded like you split college up a little bit. So was it kind of you had to put the effort there, or was it that more engaging to you at that level?
It was more engaging to me because I think it was a higher level of academic. So it was more interesting to me, like critical thinking and the higher levels of English and psychology. So all that stuff that's all the stuff I was in school for. And so it was easier for me to concentrate and, kind of focus on what was important to me.
Super interesting. And what was the idea once you graduated college? What were you thinking?
Once I graduated college, I wanted to start a practice. I wanted to be like Ann Landers. Do you know who Ann Landers is?
I don't know who it is.
Okay. She was a columnist in the newspaper that gave advice.
Oh,
and so anybody would call in and ask Ann, kind of thing.
Okay.
I wanted to be one of those kind of people. And I'm like, how do I monetize this, And so I just I got away from that in college a little bit because I left college because I met my ex-husband. And my life just kind of took a little bit of a different direction. And so when I was 24, I got married. And so I hadn't finished my degree. And I started a wholesale company with Best Computer Supply. They did back then all hardware. And so I pitched it to the owner to start a software division and, sell that kind of thing. So that's what I did. And I kind of just went into and started my sales and marketing career.
Well, where did that come from? So you're studying psychology. How did you get into software?
Probably because it just, I think I was talking to somebody someday and said, you'd be really good in sales. And I was in sales when I was younger. My first sales job was selling Kirby vacuum cleaners, knocking on doors. So when I was 14 and a half. Wow. So, I'd been in sales, and I thought, well, my psychology background could help me in sales. So what way do I want to go with that? Mm-hmm. So it just kind of took another little curve, and I took a job back then because we were just buying a house, and I was pregnant, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I got to pay the bills. So what could I do to pay the bills and make a decent amount of money at my age back then? So that was in the 90s. So that's how I got there.
And then take us through the next step. So you take that on. And was it successful?
It was. We were highly successful, and they closed up shop and went to Reno because that was their UPS hub, and then they didn't have to pay tax there. So I was not going to move to Reno. So I decided, okay, well, what am I going to do now? And so that's when I started my marketing agency. I went in because I would go in and talk to, I was doing business to business, not B2C. I wasn't doing that type of business when I was at Best Computer Supply. It was a wholesale division. So I was really good at talking to business owners. And so I thought, okay, well, business owners, they don't matter to me. Everybody dresses the same. It doesn't matter what your title is. I really don't care. And so I decided to get into the, little tchotchke branding business, and so I did that, and I went for a while, and that was pretty successful, but that got boring to me. So I decided that I was going to go back to school.
So before we go back to school, let's talk about that marketing, that time. So you're starting your own business. How are you funding the business? And were there any worries about you just jumping into another new? I
was never worried about anything. I've been really lucky. Like my sister always says, you fall in doo-doo and you come smelling like a rose every time. I think because of my, spirituality and my faith, it just comes to me, and I've never worried about it, because what I tell people all the time, and I've been saying this since I was young, that whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And it always works out, because it always does. You wake up the next day and the day is different. So it always works out. You just need to focus on what you need to do. So I was never concerned about it. I always made money. I was a hustler. Yeah. I sold cars. So
So when a lot of the entrepreneurs that we talk to, they have, the high highs, the low lows, the stress of how am I going to make payroll, or how am I going to feed my family? Was there any of that happened, or was it always the positive outlook as we're going through?
No, there was lots of dark times, just kind of when, okay, business is really bad. My ex-husband had to pick up another job. He didn't want me to work, and he wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom. Well, I tried to do that for 12 months, and the money wasn't coming in because I wasn't working. And that stressed me out, because I wasn't working, and that's what I like to do. I said, why don't you be the stay-at-home mom, and I'll go out and work. I can make more money than you. And so anyway, that's kind of how I started my little agency there, my marketing agency.
And so,
I like it. And so sales, we talk to a lot of people that have sales experience in different industries. They might not even consider it to be sales, but it sounds like you kind of had that way of doing it. You had multiple roles that were sales. Was that just all outside of the psychology, degree? Was that self-taught? How were you learning to, I guess, be successful in selling, no matter, which business you were doing?
Well, my biological father is a car salesman, and he was very successful, and he had multiple dealerships. And so when I was a teenager, we reconnected, and I started selling cars. And I was a natural at it. So I thought, this is easy for me. I was successful doing what I was doing before on my own, and got into that, and decided I don't want to be a used car salesman. And it was a big boys club. There was hardly any women out there selling cars at the time. So, what was your question?
Just the sales experience.
Oh, yeah,
so
the
a lot
sales
of it
experience.
stemmed from that car sales.
A lot of it, but I think I was just born with it because I mean,
Yeah.
that was the first thing that I did, when I was 14 and a half was sell Kirby's. I was on the phone and then they put me out in the field. So, I just did really well. And I thought, okay, well, this is my niche. Now, how's my degree going to help me? And at that point I hadn't finished it yet. So, anyway, so that's how that kind of went, just stemming probably mostly from the car business, just learning to do things out of the box that most people wouldn't do. Like most of the car salespeople are standing out on the lot waiting for somebody to roll in, right? And I wasn't doing that. I decided I was going to step out of the box and get all the service people that have come in for service that had cars that were 5 years and older and start calling them and making appointments for them to come back in, take a look at other cars. So I was never out there taking people rolling into the lot. I had appointments. People liked me, because I was a woman, that just seemed to work really well. And I was in that business for a while and then just decided, I don't want to be in this business anymore.
Maybe selling somewhere else.
Yeah.
put it to another use.
I was going to say, how do you think your psychology degree helped with sales? So if I look back to the 90s to now, I think the sales industry has evolved and there's all kinds of books about the psychology of sale and how to work in that framework. Do you see that connection and how did you leverage it?
Yeah, absolutely. I do see that connection hugely. In sales, it's really relationship building and you have to learn how to read people, read a room, read people, read people's body language, talk to them in the speak that they understand. Bring it down, bring it up, depending on who your audience is. You want to talk high level, you want to talk down here, wherever you want to talk, let's talk about your kids, whatever. And I always was able to connect with people through the things that I wear, because I wear big, bold jewelry and people comment on that. And that's a psychological thing, whether people think it or not, it really is. And it's a connection between people. So I used to get teased all the time about all my jewelry, but you know what? People tell me every single day how much they love my jewelry. So guess what? I just made a connection.
So it was intentional.
And so it was intentional. And then it just, I've always worn a lot of jewelry, but that was just an example. But yeah, it works. And that whole psychology just behind human behavior, is really what is, I think, the core of sales.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Tasha and our background is in sales and we manage large sales teams and it was a very important part of our career, and talking to people that would come in and a lot of times they say you can see their voice get up higher and they get louder, and I'm like, that's not sales,
right?
There's a process to sales, and to your point, there's connections and different things, and we could probably spend 3 hours talking about it, but
we spent a lot of time. We spent years coaching, even as I was learning. That's why I'm always fascinated about how people, I looked at it, to be honest, I was one of those like, oh my gosh, the salespeople are used cars.
Yeah, that's what everybody thought, right?
And now I'm just like, absolutely love it. And I love I think every single guest that we have, no matter what industry or whatever it is, there's this piece of sales in it. It just comes out every time, which I love.
Yeah. Well, people are every day selling themselves and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
So even asking for a bag of potato chips on a shelf somewhere. Can you help me get that bag of potato chips right up there, because I'm too short or whatever?
Yeah, I do that often. So. I'm often the person getting that bag for them. But okay, so you are now out. You've started a business. Is that where you are? Your husband, was he stay at home and you kind of went out, or how did that work? No,
actually we were divorcing at the time.
Oh, okay.
So I said, okay, well, here we go. So I went on and decided, I'm just going to do what I love to do, and that's go out and talk to businesses and help them and come up with a marketing plan so that their sales can increase. And I decided, that's kind of what I wanted to do. And that's when I started my school again, my online schooling, and completed my bachelor's degree. So I was able to do that. And I started my agency. Well, actually, take that back. I started my agency, but I wasn't doing that full time. Full time, I was working with a company called Pathlore, and they did knowledge management systems, which is, in layman's terms, online universities. So we were the first ones in the nation to come up with that concept of learning online. And so I was working with that company, really huge company called Pathlore, and down in the Bay Area. And they were, that was during the .com time. And so tech was just blowing up like crazy. Yeah. And I had to learn it. And I thought, okay, tech, sales, marketing. Okay, how am I going to do all this? But I went into it because the money was huge. And here I am, a single mom. So I thought, okay, I'm still going to do my little marketing stuff over here because someday I'm going to bring it up. But right now I got to pay the bills and I want to buy a house and I want to do all this. So I was with them for 4 years before they started. They moved to Ohio, which was the corporate headquarters, and shut down the West Coast. So that happened to me twice. So I'm thinking, okay, there's a pattern here. I just need to get back into business for myself. But working with Pathlore gave me a really good foundation of dealing with different levels of companies and people. And who I work with. Some of my customers with Pathlore, they weren't little customers. They weren't even medium customers. They were multi-billion-dollar customers, millions of dollars. Like Boeing was one of my customers, and a Starbucks corporate was a customer. That's state of Oregon. So big, huge customers. So the sales process was a lot longer. It's like it took like 8 to 12 months for a sales process. And in that time, when you're taking that long in a sales process, you're really developing connections and relationships. And why should they trust me to help them through this process? And working with different people on different levels, from C-level to middle management to even workers, what would they think? And I got their perspective on what would make it easy for them. How can we build this out so it's easy for the end user, not the C-level people? So anyway, so that was a really great experience. Different. I mean, working in a really high level corporate position like that. It was, and believe it or not, I used to do a lot of speaking and I don't like to speak anymore. So, so that was great. That really built my confidence. I was young. I had my daughter. I bought my first house by myself. And so that was a huge accomplishment moving forward. And then when they decided that they were moving to Ohio, of course, I'm not leaving because I have all my family here and everything like that. So that's when the marketing agency really bloomed out. And I decided this is what's happening.
Was that hard for you to go from, working with them and getting such great experience with massive enterprise deals, going out onto your own, you had the experience, but was that a transition for you? Now I'm assuming had to just look for new local clients, or was that, I don't know, it's like it gave you the confidence, but was that hard for you to go back down to kind of starting from scratch?
No, because I was starting from scratch. But I was also in insurance for a small time. So I was out there knocking on doors and getting the experience of working with just smaller kind of clients. And while I was out there doing that, I was also talking about my marketing agency. So I was double, doing it. And so that it just kind of transformed. I don't know how. It just kind of flowed.
And how were you studying or learning marketing? So you have a psychology background and then you're in sales. How are you learning marketing?
That was just a natural gift. So it was just part of, I didn't go to school for marketing. I don't have degrees in marketing. And it was just something that, I was able to see. And I think I got that experience working with the really large corporations to see what they're doing for marketing, what was working, what wasn't. And I was always in my brain spinning what could they do to, scale their business? What can they do to offer the end user or whatever? That was always spinning in my brain. And so I just started reaching out to small businesses and seeing what they're doing for their marketing and starting small and kind of building it up from there. So I was doing two things at once.
So I would imagine when you pull it all together, you have the sales and you have the psychology. They all goes into marketing. You're targeting a consumer and how you're going to trigger them to buy. And so I'm obviously fascinated with the psychology background of it.
Yeah.
So it's like that, again, influencing everything that you're putting into that business. And so you're selling multiple. You're selling to the business, but then you're selling to their consumers. So how are those processes different when you're starting that company? You're trying to get clients, but then you're also trying to get your clients' clients.
Okay, let me think about that. So I'm trying to get my clients through trust and just working with me and trusting that I'll help them. And then through that, through the marketing campaigns with the call to actions and the different things that the business needed to implement to scale their business, we would put those into place, which would in turn turn those into clients of theirs.
Got it. And when you think back to those first couple years, are there some big wins that stand out to you that you just remember as milestone wins with particular businesses or people?
In the big corporate
No, when you went out on your own.
Oh, when I was out on my own. Yeah, when I was out on my own, I think my first big win was a market in Delhi. And I thought, okay, this is a small business. It's local. I frequent it. I know the owner, and we just had a conversation one day, and I thought, this is easy. I can just keep doing this and just knocking on doors of businesses, and not selling anything, knocking on doors, introducing myself, seeing what I had, taking their card, calling them back up and making an appointment. So that was kind of my game plan, never to sell anybody anything, just give them some education, put what I have on the table, and let them make their own decision.
And I take it you're an extrovert, because as an introvert, even though I'm in sales, like me thinking about walking into the deli and having that conversation, I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bother you at all. You're
No.
just like, it's a gift.
Yes.
She's like, that's the easy part.
That's the easy part. I still do that. So, yeah. Actually, I like that. I like that part of it. Just introducing myself, not scaring anybody when I walk in. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Just let's have a conversation. And that's always come very easy to me. And I think that's why I was really successful with the really large corporations too, because I wasn't nervous about walking in and talking to a CEO of a very large corporation or sitting down and having dinner with them or whatever it was. And that probably actually gave me a lot of confidence that I was working on that kind of level. And people trusted me. They liked me. They invited me to their homes for dinners and parties and, all kinds of different things. Dealing with multimillionaires, and me here being this little single mom walking in there in my red suit thinking I'm all that. But, it was giving me the confidence that I needed, I think, to just to fly on my own and know that I can do it.
And so we often hear from, especially in sales, there's different ways that salespeople handle rejection. Some say it's a numbers game. So you're going to talk to 100 people and 95 of them are going to say no. But you have a little bit of a different outlook, it seems like. So how did you view rejection, or did you view it as rejection?
I didn't review it as rejection. I was like, okay, cool. You can do business with somebody else. If you ever need anything, I'm a great resource. Here's my card. Keep it. I'll check in on you in a couple months or whatever. I didn't take rejection because a no was never a no to me unless they kicked me out of their place and said, don't ever come back here. But I never had that happen. So, that was really good for me. So I was just, I know it's a numbers game. But I don't think in my brain doesn't work like that. So I just figure on to the next,
Interesting.
Okay.
And you never look back and be like, oh, I could have said this better or that better to get that. You just move on.
Good. Yeah, because I take things personal.
Yeah.
And that was one I had to early in my career. It was very customer would make me cry, and I'm like, this is so stupid. On to the next, and then you get through so many, and so you get over that, I think, with experience. But so many people, I think that's what holds them back, is they don't know how to navigate that or get stuck in it. So that was one I had to push through a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard for most people. They look at me when I tell them I still go knock on doors. That's what I do. That's how I get my business.
Yeah.
So besides networking, but that's an important part to me, because I like looking at people. They can see me. You're not talking to me on the phone. I'm not making you empty promises. I'm here. So if I'm in the grocery store, I'm not going to duck out on you because you're going to see me, right? So, I have to be true to myself. But what I always told my sister, and I taught my sister how to go out and sell, and now she's killing it. And I'm so glad. She's awesome. But anyway, when I was teaching her how to go out and sell, what I wanted her to do was shadow me and not say exactly what I was saying, but take it and make it her own. But I told her, because she was really nervous to go into a networking situation or to walk into a business with me, because she asked me the same thing. How can you do that? That they're not slamming the door on your face. I go, well, I'm too nice. I don't look like I'm scary, so they're not going to slam the door on me. But I said, the thing to remember is you're out there making friends. That's it. You're making friends. Whether they buy from you or not, they're going to be my friends. And so that's just how it was.
That's a great approach. Some of us are big and scary when we walk into
Yeah,
That's true.
What are you here for? You going to beat me up?
Who's going in? I'm like, I'll go. This one's not for you. Sometimes I'll be like, no, you gotta go.
Yeah, good tag team.
We use it, yeah. So is this the start of your current, you're doing consulting now, so is this the same business? Like what year are we talking here where you had actually started your own business?
I started in 1994, 95.
Okay. And that's the one that's been, is that
this is my current
today?
one, yes.
Okay, yeah. So it's been that.
Yeah, but I had to shut it down for a time. So there was a blip in there in the middle of that.
How long was the blip?
About 12 years.
Okay. Do you want to share?
Sure. So when we were doing awesome. I was partners with who is my print house now in South Sacramento, Andy. And we partnered up when we were both young and starting our businesses and growing together and knocking on doors together. And he was doing print and mail. And so I decided I was going to do that. And we were very, very successful. Things were going good. Social media just started coming out. So I thought, we need to get on the wave, because it was MySpace. And MySpace, I know I'm super dating myself right now.
I had one.
Yeah. But on that MySpace account, I'm like, there's lots of opportunity here for businesses to be getting in front of people. And my brain just started ticking. And it's like, how can you market this? And so then Facebook came out. And so everybody had personal profiles on there. And I said to my partner, we need to get in on this and start building this for businesses. So we started on that. So that kind of took off. We're doing great. 2008 comes along and the market crashed. We had a recession. And so everybody stopped marketing, which was really odd to me, because my favorite saying in life is stopping your marketing to save money is like stopping a clock to save time. And it doesn't make sense, but that's the reality of it. And people were stepping back and losing their businesses, and it was a really bad time. And so that's when I decided to sell my book of business off, and I went into senior living.
Oh.
So I was the director of sales and marketing at Eschaton. And I still had my agency. I still had some clients, so I never totally shut it down. So it was just kind of there, but it was I was working with Eschaton full time as their sales and marketing director. They didn't have a marketing department, so or they did of sorts, but I helped them out with. We did all of the marketing through. I was working at Eschaton Village, Carmichael, and was very successful about getting that building full, keeping it full. We did a really great job, my team and I. And then corporate wanted me to start helping the other Eschaton salespeople and people that I could help out there do some sales coaching and, doing some marketing coaching about what pieces are generating people walking in the door, for us. And so I really helped out with that for several years and decided after the pandemic that I needed to reopen fully my agency because I saw the need out there for not only senior living, small retirement communities, and home care company and placement agents and all of that. They were all struggling, didn't know how to market, didn't know how to get their name out there. What are we going to do? We need to get people in the door. We need to fill these buildings. And so I saw my niche market, and I said, nobody's out there doing that. And so that's when I decided to retire from Eschaton and just reopen my agency, and that was going on 4 years now.
So 2021, right in that?
Yep.
You kept you through a couple different jobs, you kept your business there. Like, did you have those thoughts of just being done with it altogether, or you always, it seemed like you were secure and like I will always do this or have this, and it was just worked in, even though the other thing might have been bigger at the time. Yeah. What made you hold on to it?
Because I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, and I knew that I didn't want to work for anybody. I wanted to work for myself, make my own rules, be my own boss. And if I wanted to take a day off work, then I would. But not only that, I had the freedom to sell what I wanted, market what I wanted, make my own pay scale, be affordable to a lot of different companies, because my main goal was working with small businesses, because those are the people that need the help most, that get taken advantage of the most. And that really upset me. And the more I hear about that, people spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and not seeing any return on investment and not even knowing where their money's going. So that just grabs my heart, and it pissed me off. So it's like, okay, that really fueled my fire to get out there and help. Yeah. So, yeah.
Being a small business owner, that's the one thing I think a lot of people are scared of. Like, we can't, that's where it comes from. We can't afford marketing, or it doesn't work, or, things like that. There's a lot of, I don't know, bad actors, but you get bombarded with that too. Like,
for sure.
Every day.
Every day from
people,
Google, right?
I'm just like, whoa. So that was but marketing is very key to a company. So it's something
and good marketing is key to success, because people will just throw money at different types of marketing, and it's really not the best for their business. They're just doing it because somebody said, oh, this is going to work for your business. Mm-hmm. But the real estate market, which used to be really good for me, the mortgage and real estate, because I was doing the data and the print, they were doing a lot of mailing. And, nowadays, people are all going digital, and search engine optimization doesn't work really good for the real estate agents, Yeah. So, but they'll be told time and time again, oh, they need this and they need that and they need this, and they don't need that because it's not going to work for them. But they're, throwing money at it because they don't know. They just are like, tried and true. Like I was just told what I needed to do. I was told it would work, and then it doesn't work, and then they get really down in the dumps, about marketing.
Yeah, it can be frustrating. To Natasha's point, we get bombarded with, whether it's over social or however they get to us, saying, hey, if you do this, and it's hard to know.
Yeah.
So we've spent some money, and we've gone into some areas, like take Google Ads, for example. I'm like, well, nobody explained, this part of it where I have to shut it off because of, keywords and things like that.
Yeah.
It's a learning process.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap to learn those lessons. So tell us about where you're at today in the business, who you work with, your target market.
So who I work with today is the small and medium-sized businesses, but my cream of the crop is really businesses that have, $3,000 and higher to spend in their marketing budget. Now, do I get a lot of those? No, but that's my cream of the crop, but because I have a big heart and I go out and I educate people, just like you were saying, it was expensive for you to find out. But if you were educated in the beginning, you may have not spent that much money, right? So I'm out there educating people on the different types of marketing, why this would work for their business and why this didn't work for their business, or vice versa. And so it really comes into the education part of it. And I feel that it's just kind of my mission to get out there and help these small businesses, because I see them struggling. I see them pulling out. I see them spending tons of money. And it hurts my heart because, that's all local business. It's like, how are we going to stay together as a local community if all of these businesses are going under because it's too expensive and they can't market and they can't do this and they can't do that. But there's lots of ways that they can do things that they don't even think about doing that I just offer up out of my brain, just to help out. So,
do you do all types of industries, or are there industries, you mentioned like real estate, are there ones that you specialize in more, or is it really just any type?
I have two. One is my passion, the senior industry. So I really try to focus on that, and I do a lot with the senior living industry. But then the contractors and the service providers, they're a really big part of my business, and they, and with them, we do kind of a mix. Depends on what kind of business they're doing, whether it's the digital stuff, what they have already in place, what could be enhanced, that kind of thing. And we work on that together. But, a lot of the time, direct mail is just the way to go, because people pay a lot of money for Google ads. And when you do a direct mail piece, you get right in front of somebody and they have something to hold on to, not something they clicked and then they can't find again. Mm-hmm. So that works really well in the senior industry, because the seniors, they love to hold on to things, and it's tangible. So, and then you're getting in front of somebody's face really quick, and they're seeing your stuff. It works tried and true. It's been working for years and years and years. It's not going away just because the digital's here. It's just going to be the same or higher. So
I have a question there, because there's a lot of people marketing, and they're slick when they come in and they say, hey, look at all of these things. They create websites, they create all these testimonials and things, and like, you invest $10,000, we're going to, X your revenue. So how would a small business be able to decipher? What should they look for from those, someone like you who has heart's in the right place and will take them down the right path, versus someone who's just selling? And it's easy to fall into when they're giving you that pitch of like, oh my gosh, that sounds so good. And you're like, it's got to be too good to be true.
Well, I think a lot of business owners don't do their due diligence, and I really, really encourage them to do that before they do any business with me or anybody else. Do your research, and not just look at testimonials. Pick up the phone and call these business owners that they say they worked for. Because a lot of companies, they'll have all these testimonials and they're bogus. They pay for them, or they have their friends and family doing them. And it's unfortunate, but it happens a lot. And I think if you're going to be spending money with any organization, it doesn't matter who it is, you should pick up and do your due diligence, not just do your online research. There's a lot you can do online, but there's even more when you're picking up the phone and you're talking to another business owner that's done business with you. Or call those testimonials. People, I tell them to, the testimonials that I have on my site, call this person, ask this for this person. This is the business owner. Talk to them. Be very candid. And I tell my clients all the time, be very candid. Don't just, butter me up, because I want you to be honest. Like this, we worked with her and that didn't work, but we did this and that really worked. So there's always different kinds of paths that you can do. It's kind of, you gotta see what works for you. And like I said, every business is so different. So what is good for one person is not necessarily good for another person, and you can't know that unless you try it sometimes. And so I think really doing your due diligence, talking to people that know that person, what is their personality like, or how do they follow through in business? What is their turnaround time? What is their communication style? Does she get back to you within 24 hours? Does she do what she says she's going to do? Does she send you updates? Do you stay in close contact? Do you get a report at the end of the month? That kind of thing. Does she come in and go over it with you, or any of that? So I can tell you that all day long. Because I love myself. So, I think I do a good job. So, but you know what? You find out from people, really who you're working with. And that's important.
Yeah. So when a client comes to you, what can they expect? What's kind of what would that flow be like for you to get to know them? And I know we've all sat down, but for, listeners, if they came to you and said, okay, here, I'm a small business owner and I need help, like how does it go from there with you?
Well, my first step is to set up an appointment to do a discovery. We do kind of a deep dive into their business, find out, what they've done in the past, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what they've heard. Educate them, find out where they want to go, how they want to scale their business. That's all super important to find out where you're going to even start in marketing. And so we have that conversation, and that our consultation is, you can do with it what you want. It's complimentary. I don't ever charge for it. And I also put out a lot of things that they can do on their own. You don't need to pay somebody to go do this on your Google profile, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. You do it. If you decide that you can't do it or you don't want to do it, then you can hire me to do it. But I'm telling you that you can do this part of it. And, so that's the very first part, building that relationship, that trust, saying, okay, I'm going to get back to you with the information. I'm going to run a report on your business. Let's see where we can start from there. The report will tell me how you're looking out in the digital landscape, how your website's performing for you, what's happening with your direct mail, what has been your ROI on that, and get all that information and then get that out to there. And then that's more education areas, to say, okay, look, this is where I'm at. You can pick and choose what you want to do, but at least you have a roadmap of somewhere where to start. What's the most important? What are my ideas and suggestions on what's the most important based on your business and based on what you already have out there? So that's the very first step. And then getting them their quotes. People want to know, what's the money? So I'm like, get you the money. Yeah. Let's talk about some sort of a plan. I don't write marketing plans, but I have a lot of resources in all different kinds of areas. So I'm a great resource to people, and if anybody needs anything, I'm more than happy. And if I don't know somebody, I know somebody that does know somebody. Been around here for 30 years, so I've been doing a lot of networking, and I've become a really trusted resource for people. And that makes a big difference too. So educate them and help them on their journey there too.
So important. It's so important to actually partner with your clients. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how you build. So.
Well, there's a lot of people that over the years that didn't do business with me, but they sent me business. So, there's a lot of collaboration. I'm genuinely interested in your business. I'm genuinely interested in seeing you succeed. I love to see that because I'm part of that, so it makes me excited. Yeah. And that's what keeps me going to doing what I'm doing.
I love it. And the hour always goes by really, really quick.
Yeah.
So we have a couple staple questions that we like to ask. Yeah. And I'm really excited to ask you this question to see how you answer it. So how do you define success? And not necessarily just professional, but personal. What's your definition of success?
My definition of success is waking up every day excited to see what the day is going to bring you. Having a good, healthy family life balance, my family and my children are extremely important to me, like just like everybody, I'm sure. But seeing them succeed is my success, and being there to see not only businesses thrive, my family thrives, my friends thrive. That's success to me. Just being, happy, having a positive attitude, and being that person for people they're having a bad day or they're not sure what's going on. That's kind of where my psychology comes in. I'm that person, the go-to person. So, and that's good for me. That's success to me, because that means that people are knowing me, they're trusting me, they love me. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money I bring in. I know I can make the money. That's not the problem. Just staying healthy and passionate about what I do in life and my family and friends. That's the biggest success for me.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you do radiate that. Every room we've been in with you, you have that presence about you.
Oh, thank you.
So my staple question is, we take you through your whole journey and we get you to where you are, and then I ask you to look back a little bit. So if you could, knowing what you know today, being who you are today and where you're at, if you could talk to your 30-year-old self and give one piece of advice, what would it be? In life or business, whatever you.
I think my biggest piece of advice is never, ever, ever give up, because it's always going to work out. That's my biggest piece of advice, no matter where you are in your life.
Yeah.
I love it.
I do too.
I wrote it down earlier from when you were saying that you've said that for a very long time. So it's very true. It's very true.
Yeah, someone else framed it. I can't remember. It was like you've made it through your worst day. You're going to make it through today.
Right. Exactly.
We've all made it through. Well, it's been an incredible hour, incredible journey and story. So thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate it.
And thank you. That did go by fast.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I could talk about myself forever.
Thank you. Yeah. Anything else? Any last words for the listeners that you want to get out there?
No, I just appreciate everybody out there. And if anybody needs any advice or just wants to pick my brain, pick up the phone, give me a call, send me an email. I'm happy to help out in any way that I can, honestly. So, yeah.
Oh, very, very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.